So this is probably the biggest objection in sales, and it's probably the objection that's cost you the most amount of money. If you don't know what that is by now, it is the I need to think about it objection. Before we even dive into handling this objection, we need to figure out what this objection actually means. Now, when someone gets to the end of a sales call, you go through the pitch, you go through, what it is that you need to go through, and then you tell them the price, and then they hit you with the I need to think about it objection. Your brain goes into autopilot and you just think, shit, okay, they're gonna get off this call, I'm never gonna hear from them again, I'm gonna follow up with them, they're not gonna reply. That is what happens if you let someone off the call when they say that they need to think about it. But before we handle it, let's dive into actually what it is. So when someone says they need to think about it, chances are it's two things. They've either got fear about if this is actually gonna work for them, or 99.9% of the time, it's finances. Now, the reason that people say they need to think about something as opposed to saying, I can't afford it, is because it sounds a lot better. When someone says that they need to think about it, to them, in their mind, they're like, okay, that's a perfectly normal human thing to do. I need to think about it. I need to go away before I make this decision. And they think that it's actually polite to tell you that they need to think about it, as opposed to them saying, I downright can't afford it. If someone says to you that they can't afford it, it's a lot better than this objection because there's no smoke screen behind it. But ultimately, that is what this objection is. It's a smoke screen. So how can we actually handle the I need to think about it objection? Well, before we even handle the I need to think about it objection, we need to prevent it from coming up in the first place. So what you can do on a sales call, and this is what I like to do on my sales calls, is I like to cut off every possible exit that someone can take before they get to the end of the call when they make the decision to either invest or to not invest. And by cutting the exits off, what I mean is I want to basically get them to a point where they tell me that the program in front of them and what we're selling is going to help them. Okay, so what we want to confirm is this going to get them to their goal? And when I say confirm, they need to confirm to us. So they need to outright tell us that it's going to get them to their goal. So we need to confirm if it's going to get them to their goal, if it's going to work for them, why it's going to work for them, why they feel like they need it, and what happens if they don't take action and they don't actually invest. So those are just a couple of things that we can do to even prevent this objection from coming up. And we want to cut off every single exit so that this person can't really use this objection because it doesn't make sense. And obviously you can do this through a number of different points in the call. So let's just take, for instance, the part about, is this right for them? Is this the right service for them? What you want to do before you can say the price is you go through your program, you go through your pitch, you tell them like how you can help them. And then I want you to stop and I want you to ask them a question. And I want you to say to them, I know this is probably going to sound a bit random, but it's the most important question that I'm going to ask you today. Do you feel like this is going to help you? Then they're either going to say yes or no. If they say no, then I don't really know what you've done wrong. But if they say yes, then obviously we want to expand on that and get them to tell us why. So then once they say yes, we can follow up and say, okay, cool. So just out of interest, why do you feel like this is going to work for you? And they're going to give you a whole host of reasons, and they're going to tell and sell themselves on why this very program is going to work for them. So then we get to the price. This is where the objection will come because of the finances. Now, if we've asked the questions, if we've cut off all of the exits or the routes that the person can take, and then they still give us this objection, it's very clear and it's very evident that it's just a finance-based objection. So let's just say, for instance, someone says to you, you say to someone, oh, is this going to help you? Yes, it is. Why is that? Because blah, 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 blah. And then you ask them, okay, so if you don't mind me asking, finances aside for a second, is this something that you feel like you want to start as soon as possible? And then they say, oh, it's as soon as possible. And then you can ask them, okay, so if you don't mind me asking, why is it that you want to start as soon as possible? Why not wait and put this off for another 2 weeks? And then they're going to give you the reason for urgency. So we've got all bases covered. Does it work for them? Yes. Why does it work for them? Because of X reason. Do they want to start now? Yes. What happens if they don't start now? Consequence, urgency. And they give us the objection. Now, how we handle this objection is obviously very, very important. But what we want to do is we want to leverage everything that we've learned and everything that we've asked to handle this objection. So what I like to do, to be honest with you, I like to just go straight at this objection. I've seen a lot of different videos online. Obviously, there's a lot of sales trainers out there that teach you how to handle this in multiple different ways. Some people pretend like they're going off the phone and then they pretend to book in a follow-up call and then ask them what they feel like they want to think about between now and the follow-up call. Not personally a fan of this because I feel like it's just unnecessary steps. I feel like the best way to address this objection is just to go head on at it. And that is what I do. So obviously we've gone through, what you need to do before you have this objection. So then let's say, for instance, they get the objection. Now, what you can say is they say, okay, I need to think about it. And then obviously we want to isolate the objection. So say something to the extent of, okay, I'm guessing you feel like everything's good for you, the program's good for you, you feel like it's going to work for you like you just mentioned, but you just need to think about it. Is that correct? And that's the only thing stopping you from sort of like joining today or, taking action today. And they say yes. So we've isolated that objection, or we've isolated the smoke screen in front of the actual objection. So once they say yes to that, what you can do is just go straight at this objection and say to them, okay, so obviously we've had a really good conversation. You told me that this is exactly what you're looking for because blah, blah, blah. You said that this is going to help you because of blah, blah, blah. You said that this is something that you want to start now. Obviously in X amount of months, blah, blah, blah will happen. So we're literally reiterating and rephrasing and repeating everything that they've told us. And with that in mind, what you can say next is, look, obviously everything's perfect. You've just told me that, do you still feel like that's the case? Yes. So when you say I need to think about it, I'm guessing it's probably just to do with the finances. Is that correct? What we're doing there is obviously handling the I need to think about it. We're getting rid of the smoke screen and pulling out the true objection, which 9 times out of 10 is going to be finances. Obviously from there, what we want to ascertain is, okay, so like with the finances then, we're like, what is it that you need to think about? And then what they're going to do is they're going to give you the actual objection. They're going to be like, oh, I just can't afford, maybe if you go for 6 months up front, I just can't afford 6 months, or I just can't afford this. And then obviously you can handle it like a normal financial objection. But the big thing to remember is that when someone says they need to think about it, they don't need to think about it. And something that really sticks with me is that time doesn't make decisions, information does. So if you're letting your prospects get off the sales call, going to think about it, to mull it over, or because they don't make decisions on the spot, they're never, ever going to come back to you. And what we need to do is really pull out reasons as to why they can't think about it in the discovery and obviously in the pitch, so that if they say they need to think about it, we can quickly swap that objection away, that smoke screen away, and get to the actual objection. If you let these people off a call, they are going to ghost you. You will never hear from them again. And I've done this myself. I've naively thought that people are going to get back to me because they seemed like really nice people or they seemed like good prospects, and they haven't, because ultimately they don't care about you, they care about themselves. So the biggest piece of advice is to have the ammunition in the closet ready to handle this objection before it even comes up. And then once it does come up, if it does come up, then you can obviously leverage that information and pull the smoke screen away and ultimately get to the true objection. Because once you get to the true objection, you make life way easier for yourself because you can work around that person. If it's financial, there's obviously ways and means for you to work around it, payment plans, upfront payment, monthly plans, like there's a lot of ways to work around it. But if you don't get to that objection initially, then you can't handle it because they're telling you that they need to think about it and putting a smoke screen in front of your face. And also, what I want you to remember as well is that you cannot outpitch or out objection handle shit discovery. If you have got dog shit discovery and then you get this objection, it's not looking too good for you. But if you've got fantastic discovery and you pull out a lot of emotions and you create a larger gap, you put yourself in such a better position to handle any potential objections that come up, as opposed to having willy-nilly discovery, kind of staying surface level, and then just expecting to pull some magic objection handling script out of the box when you get to the end of the call. Your discovery is the most important part of your sales calls, and if you don't do that to the best of your ability, you are going to make life hard for you when it comes to actually closing. Now, obviously I run a sales academy. If you want to learn how to do shit hot discovery and to basically prevent any single objection from coming up, then just click the first link down below and there's a free training that you can use to make sure that you prevent objections before they even come up. And then obviously if you get objections, you can handle them. If you have any thoughts, any questions, obviously put them down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you've taken some value from it. Obviously let me know if you use what I've told you to handle the objection, and make sure to send me 10% commission of the sale. I'll catch you next time.